Hello, I'm Gary Lyon and welcome to the 2014 wash-up for the Richmond Football Club. In the end, Damo, the team finished with exactly the same result as last year, falling over 1 week into the finals. So is that a fail or a pass?
Gaz, it's a fail, and I would actually argue that right now they're in a worse position than they were this time last year. I just don't get the 9 wins in a row in the home and away season and then just losing the final the way they did. No,
it is all about what you can get done in September, and they did come up well short against Port Adelaide, but highlight for me for the year was their finish.
Yep.
I mean, 3-10 after 13 rounds of the home and away season. They had to win 9 in a row to get their Damo, so in isolation that is without doubt the highlight, and this was the moment. They went up to Sydney, albeit the Swans were ensconced in top spot, weren't able to move from there, but Richmond had to get the job done, and they did it, having been headed in the last quarter at ANZ Stadium. Now, in hindsight, these celebrations look, well, they're understandable because it was a remarkable story, but maybe this was their final, maybe this was their high point.
Is it
for the year.
possible in the wash-up that they'd actually take more out of that game and that feeling than they do after the Port Adelaide loss in the final?
Well, they shouldn't, and this is the issue with the Tigers, and I'm sure they won't be as easily pleased. I mean, that was a Sydney team who couldn't move from where they were.
Yep. Dustin Martin, Gaz, is the man I give my highlight to. Again, like a lot of teammates, had a very poor final, but I think if you look at his work in 2014, with things like this, we saw him do this on 3 occasions late in the season where he kicked the goal with only minutes to go to seal a victory for the Tigers. And look, there were times where he looked right in the absolute elite. There's still some question marks about him, and he still needs to put it together again before we put him in officially that elite category. But the signs, I reckon, Gaz, until that final were really, really good.
Coached well. I think they played to his strengths in the end, Damo, and that was his ability as a one-on-one forward. And look, as his career unfolds, he may be a 70-30 forward to midfielder. Yeah, well, right now I don't think he works hard enough as a midfielder, but as a forward he's a very dangerous proposition. Every highlight needs lowlights, and if the highlight for me was their run home, the lowlight was their first 13 weeks, 3 wins and 10 losses. They came back by their own admission, not as professionally, not as prepared, weren't hard enough on each other. Those honest truths came out after 13 games of the season, but too little too late at that stage, and it culminated in this loss to the Melbourne Footy Club. And no disrespect to the Demons, but they haven't been able to claim a Melbourne-based scalp for such a long time, and this was a low point for the season. They got them by 17 points, and the post-game press conference had Damien Hardwick wandering there and at a loss, really. Yeah. He didn't know where they were going.
That was the Tommy Hafey tribute match, Gaz, which made it worse, if that was possible.
So many reasons to get themselves up for that day at the MCG, and they didn't fire a shot.
Look, I'm going to go with a couple of individuals as my lowlights. Ty Vickery initially for that shocking hit on Dean Cox. And you just look at that now and you still can't believe he got treated so leniently, and it certainly didn't help Cox's for the rest of the year. This you watch this more and more, and you just cannot get your head around Reece Conker only copping 2 weeks for this. I mean, both that incident and the Cox one were more your drunken pub-style king hits. It's not tough, and I think that message just really needs to be sent in a very strong way. That is not tough from Richmond.
We are agreeing too much, but I'm with you on that one. No, Matt Thomas also.
Yep. What did he do?
Well, you could argue that of all the lowlights we're showing, this was possibly the biggest one. Well, don't laugh, Damo.
Well, you'll put it on the list.
Well, I'm not doing it to make you laugh. I mean, that is a low light.
Why are you showing it?
It's a low light. And look at this. He had to check to make sure everything was still in place. That is a low light, Damo, any way you look at it.
All right, who gets the Christmas bonus for the Tigers, Gaz?
Anthony Miles for me. Yep. And he's already got it by getting a contract extension, but I'd also throw a couple of hunch. Rex Arnold, big Rexy Hunt, presented him with a jumper, and he didn't look back from that point forward. I mean, he's got courage. He plays like a man desperate to make every single game as if it was his last. He's
not a flash in the pan, as in half a season performer. You reckon he's there for the long haul?
He's one of those blokes, I think, in the not as good as Sam Mitchell, but wherever he plays, he finds the footy. Yeah. And he just kept finding the footy, and it allowed the Tigers to do lots of other things. So well done to Anthony Miles. What about you?
My bonus is going to Alex Rance, Gaz. No coincidence that the club could not put together any form of good form when he was injured, and then when he came back and got his form back, they went on this roll. He took on pretty much everyone this season and held his own. Again, as we said before, a few teammates like him in the final, disappointing. But he was, I would argue, Gaz, he was the key for what happened to them in that 9-match winning streak.
Yep, he and Ivan Maric, he was the other one that was missing early on, so his ability one-on-one is almost unsurpassed in the competition. So still a little shaky with ball in hand, but got better at that as the year wore on, and well done.
OK, chopping block time for the Tigers.
All right, I think Aaron Edwards and Sean Hampson for me, Damo. So they're 2 recycled players. I could kind of understand where they're going when they took them as backup, but they haven't been able to cement spots in a side. Aaron Edwards, plenty of opportunity. He's a tease. Yeah. He does a bit, but doesn't get
And has
there.
been at 3 clubs, hasn't he?
He has been. Yeah. And Shawnee Hampson, well, they've got a guy called Liam McBean sitting in the wings. I think he's going to get opportunity. What about you?
I'm going for Ty Vickery, Gaz, not just for what we showed before on Dean Cox, but, well, he couldn't get back in late in the season, didn't play in the final. Look, Griffiths was a better player for Richmond this year in that position, and I think Richmond was a better performed team when Vickery was out. Sometimes it just comes a time for player and club to leave, and it needs to be mutual, as a few decisions will be this year at other clubs. And to me, Ty Vickery right now needs to make that decision himself.
Oh, nice, tough call from you, Damo. What do they need to recruit? Well, if I'm getting rid of Sean Hampson, I think they need some ruck back up for Ivan Maric. I mean, they went into that final with Ivan as the main man, and they used Griffiths a bit to pinch hit, but a genuine backup ruckman for me is something they need to identify.
OK, in recent times, Jake King retiring and Nahas and Matty White moving on, guys, they need a small forward just at the feet of Griffiths and Riewoldt for next year. And look, they need a few things, but to me, unless they get that, anything else they do is not going to matter.
All right, been an interesting year for the Tigers. As you said at the top, same result. What happens in 2015? Up, down or stagnate?
Well, I've got them going down, Gaz. I just didn't like what I saw in that final, and I reckon you sometimes can make too many big predictions on the back of one game, but thought they were blown away, and I reckon it probably sums up where they're at.
Well, I've got them going down as well, Damo, so there you go. That'll be the huge motivation for them over the summer months. So we'll wait and see whether we're right. Thank you very much. Nice from you. That's the wash-up for the Tigers in season 2014.